Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel and podcast. We're back for a match reaction. It's Scott and Ian for this one. We've just heard the full-time whistle against Liverpool, where Newcastle have suffered their second defeat of the season and their second defeat against Liverpool. It was 2-0, final whistle. Ian, we'll jump straight into it. We'll start with the lineups that were obviously given before the game. Two real changes. You had Elliot Anderson that came in for the injured Joe Willock, and we saw the return of Callum Wilson on the bench. I'm assuming there were some other changes on the bench as well. I think Ryan Fraser
I think Lascelles was
back. Lascelles was back as well, yeah. Were you surprised at all by the selection to start Elliot Anderson?
Massively. Obviously, I watched the preview and everyone was talking about sort of the midfield is key, was going to be key. And obviously with the Bruno being suspended and Willock out, there's 2/3 of that sort of midfield three that you have with Joe Linton. So it was talking about, are you going to go maybe 4-2-3-1? But Elliot Anderson's name was never really in contention. So it was a massive shock. Obviously, we'll get to it in a bit. From what transpired in the game, you didn't really get to see a great deal of him. But to have his name in the starting 11, I thought was a big surprise. He wouldn't have crossed my mind. And it's, Eddie has obviously seen something, or tactically he thinks Elliot Anderson could offer more than what these other options were. But like you say, because of what happened in the game, it remains unknown whether he would have had a big impact or not.
Yeah, we did talk about it a little bit in the preview. You kind of feel like if Callum Wilson was, if he didn't have that injury scare last week, we probably would have seen Elliot Anderson not start that game, and it would have been different with Wilson up front and maybe Isak playing behind him or whatever he would have went for. We just don't know, but it is what it is, and that's how it started. It seemed a bit of a big occasion to drop Elliot Anderson in for it's his first start, isn't it? So it must be he's got a couple of cameos in the league. I think it's definitely his first start in the league. I thought it was nice of Eddie Howe to do it. I think maybe he was looking to maybe not risk any players for next week. I know he says we don't think about the next game, but I think it was quite obvious that first 20 minutes of the game that some of the players' heads were, they did have a mind on the final, shall we say. I do want to mention before we get into the actual game, the Sir Bobby Robson tribute. That flag was amazing, although I was surprised it came down before the players even stepped foot on the pitch. I don't know if that's something that they have to do because of what stand it's in. I've not seen them do much in that stand with a big flyer like that. So maybe they had to do that for certain reasons. But it was a nice little flag, nice gesture, and obviously the minute silence for Christian Atsu, who it was reported today he has been found, and unfortunately he passed away in the earthquake. Our thoughts got his family who were in the crowd, and I must admit when I see his wife and kids in the crowd, that put me in a bit of a fragile mindset, shall we say. It wasn't the thing you really need to say on the TV with seeing a grieving wife. But anyway, we'll move on to the game. Started brightly. Started very brightly. A couple of early chances. You had Miggy really a lot. I think it was only in the first couple of minutes, had loads of space. His touch just kind of let him down, but it was a great run by Alan Saint-Maximin to get into the position and play him in. And I think the keeper pounced on it just before he even had a chance to think, Mickey, and that's what you get with Alisson. And we saw that throughout the game. It was, we were getting the ball and the keeper was just there. And then, straight after that, I think Maxi also had a chance with a cross-field ball from Cher, which was working. We were getting that quite a lot. Cher was picking up the ball and it was coming over the top. Before the goals, what was your opinion on how we started the game and we were taking the game at Liverpool?
Yeah, I thought, I think the way Liverpool would have set up in terms of attacking the game, I think does help for us. We've talked in the past, one of our failings is not having that quality to unpick sort of defences that are sitting deep. Like you said, the Saint-Maximin chance, I thought in the first sort of 5 minutes, there was absolutely acres of space on our left-hand side from because obviously with Trent pushing forward for them, left a lot of space for us to exploit, which it looked like that's what we're trying to do. And like you say, we've had a good couple of chances, but then, which I'm sure we'll get into now, just 15 minutes of absolute madness ultimately has lost the game for. And I was saying just before we came on that, ironically, the reason we haven't won the previous lots of games is because of poor finishing in the final third, where it's the reason we've lost this game, I feel, is just complete sort of carelessness from a defensive perspective, because it wasn't just those goals. I thought time and time again it was the same ball sort of to Salah or over to Darwin Núñez. That was just, it was causing all sorts of problems, and we didn't look like we could cope, unfortunately.
Yeah, we'll talk about the first goal first, obviously, because it came first. It was a huge amount of space in the middle. Trent with the ball over. I think Trent looked like he drifted inside a little bit, which I think maybe he's caught Saint-Maximin a bit off guard with where he was. And you can't really give Trent that much space when you got players making those runs. Núñez made the run. The ball in between, I think it was in between Shaw and Trippier.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Because I think Botman's even quite far forward to make that back two work. Obviously, he takes a great touch. It hits his chest. It's not handball. Even though VAR
no chance.
looked at that for a long time. I think there was a handball and then an offside.
Offside, and for me, both were clear that it wasn't. And it's frustrating because I don't want to point blame, because I think the general performance of everyone after that 15 minutes was real good quality. It's just a shame that it was Trippier, who's your probably more experienced defender, that is, I wouldn't say, would he say at fault? I don't want to put blame on it, because I thought ultimately it was quite positive. It was quite a positive performance, but he's obviously there's a massive gap between him and Shaw, and he's about a yard further back than where he needs to be. But like you say, it's a good touch. You cannot really give players like Trent, with his passing ability, that amount of time. Good touch. A little bit lucky that it's come off his chest and not his arm, but his finish is great. I had sort of no issues with. To be honest, I don't know why VAR were taking so long to check it, and I think they did the same for the second goal as well.
Yeah, I think the second goal was a bit tighter in terms of the offside. We'll come to that in just a minute. I think with the Núñez chance, if anything, Trippier seems to stop. Well, not stop, but he slows down and just slows his pace a little bit.
Appeal for the handball,
throws his arm up and appeals for the handball. And you just think, if you just keep running, you could maybe
you've done enough to put him off,
but
at least make him work for the goal.
Yeah, it's not his fault. You're going to stick your arms up when you see someone potentially handball, especially when it's who it is and it's where it is in the game. But we can't really point any blame on that. It was I think Jamie Carragher said that was the best pass you'll ever see in the Premier League. So there you go.
It was a good pass, but I probably wouldn't go that far. No.
Shortly after, Liverpool score a second, as you mentioned. It was Cody Gakpo. I still have trouble saying that name. We talked about him in the preview. Obviously, he got a goal last week at Everton, and players like that, once they break their duct, they kind of score a couple, and we isolated him out as a target man, and it was a very, very similar goal. But it was more Salah this time playing the ball
further up the pitch as well.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, it's again, I think obviously we're seeing the quality of Cody Gakpo in World Cup. It's probably not set the world on fire since he's come to the Premier League, but he's a quality player. And to be honest, I think Liverpool are a team where obviously we've ground out results or draws, and you've probably came up against opposition that don't have that attacking threat, whereas today that's probably the difference. I do feel when the ball gets played into Salah, you can see he takes up a really good position, because I think it might be Trent sort of runs off to the right, and Dan Burns caught in between going with Salah and going to Trent, which is fair enough. And then Maxi is a little bit out of position. Again, that's no sort of, I'm not putting the blame on Maxi, but that's sort of who he was between. It's a great ball over, but again, the defence as a unit haven't stepped out together. Shaw's went. Burn probably wouldn't have been playing him on side. It's Trippier again, who's a yard further back and ultimately plays him on side. But it's like I say, really, really good move from Liverpool, given the attacking players that they've got. But at that point, you thought that's probably game over. A very, very poor start of the game.
Yeah, and at that point, you just think, well, it's damage limitation, and if we can nick a goal, then maybe we can go on and win it. And then what can only be described as the craziest 5 minutes of football you'll ever see. It just happens where we have a free kick. Kieran Trippier plays a ball in. It's a decent ball, to be fair, but Alisson is one of those keepers that I don't think those high cross balls are going to work. He just collects them all the time. And before he's even landed, before he's even finished catching the ball, Mo Salah's running.
Oh, he's away.
And Alisson knows he's going to be running, and he just kicks the ball up. And it's Mo Salah against Dan Burn, unfortunately. And we all know who's going to win that pace run. Nick Pope, who just before that did exactly the same thing. He did the header, he did it well, and it was really good. And I don't know if he slipped. I don't know what's happened, but he doesn't even head the ball. He just seems to just collapse in a heap and then sticks his arms out to catch the ball. And, well, we know what happens there. He gets a red card. He no longer can play in the final, unfortunately. And what makes it even worse is the substitute goalkeeper that came on, Martin Dubravka, who, by the way, I thought was very good when he came on, considering he hasn't had that many minutes. He also can't play in the final because we stupidly loaned him out to the team we're playing against in the final, and he played for them in an earlier round. So it's down to Karius, you'd think, or Gillespie. I don't think it'll be Gillespie, but it'll be down to Karius. But we'll come back to the incident. It's almost like the best defense in the Premier League just went on holiday for 15 minutes, and something just went from the heads. I don't know how to explain it. Like, what was your thoughts on the Nick Pope thing?
It just, like you say, a moment of madness where I don't know if it's a case of we're being 2 goals down. He's kind of wanted, and like you say, it worked from like 5-10 minutes earlier. I don't know if he thought, oh well, I can just come and do the same again. Maybe he's get the crowd up. But when I've watched the replay, he sort of just goes to dive and head it, but the ball sort of like gets trapped under his face. If you look, it bounces up and like traps under his face. It goes away, and then goalkeeper instinct. Obviously, he's swung his arm at it. And no complaints whatsoever. It's deemed a handball by the law. I think it was Jamie Redknapp in the Sky Studio said that he feels for him because of the law, not because of what actually happened. But obviously, I think it was Longstaff rather than Burn was covering. You had Trippier as well. He was clean through on goal. Sorry, he wasn't. Because Longstaff was covered, but he did have a lot of. He still had a lot of the goal to aim at. It's an absolute kick in the teeth, really. Given that,
I think
your next game that you're going to miss is possibly the biggest game of his career, or would have been the biggest game of his career. And I think he knew that when he's come off, and he looked absolutely good with himself.
He did. I mean, of all the places to do it as well, to do it at St. James's Park in front of a home crowd, it's not the best. But I was listening to what Jamie Carragher was saying about the law, and I just thought, even if that law wasn't the case, I think he still gets a straight red because it's a goal scoring opportunity that he's stopping. Like, it's not like he's come out and he's done it and there's players behind him and whatever. He's come out a long way. He's a long way out of his box. He's technically the last man. If it was Sean Longstaff fouling Salah, Sean Longstaff,
that's a red card. So
I think it doesn't matter if that law gets changed or not in that instance. I think Martin Dubravka, I think Nick Pope unfortunately walks every single time that happens, Law being there or not. But on the flip side, after that incident, you could argue we were the better side. We still took the game to Liverpool. Obviously, maybe there was 10 minutes of, shock and players just kind of, what the hell, what's happened, like what we're going to do. And it just took a little while to get out of the system. But I mean, you had Saint-Maximin hitting the crossbar. Well, it was tipped on the crossbar from
really, really good save.
Made an excellent run. Gets his shot away. I think he had 3 Liverpool players around him as well, so it makes it even more impressive what he did there. And then Dan Burn hit the crossbar with a header.
Well, yeah.
And that one, I think that's one of those chances where I think throughout the season, we've had those with the defenders where they've hit the ball from a corner, they've gotten the header, and it's flew over. That one, unfortunately, hit the crossbar, but we're getting closer.
Yeah,
I think the next one will go in the back of the net. So fingers crossed for that. Hopefully that's next week. Yeah, we'll do it next week. And then we had Mickey with a chance just before half time. I think he was outside the box
with his right foot,
shot, and it was on his right foot. And even the commentators went, "It's on his right foot." So I think we all know what's going on there.
Just uses that for standing on.
Yeah, pretty much. But you go into that half time and you're thinking, yeah, what's happened, but we know Eddie Howe can, rile up the team and change things. And there was still a lot of hope in the game because I don't want to speak poorly of Liverpool, but it was a poor performance from them, I thought, bar those 2 chances in the first half and then maybe the last 5-10 minutes where we were very, very tired because you're chasing a Liverpool side who, they were making the pitch pretty big for us in that second half. And, fatigue is bound to kick in. We start the second half, and again, I'm keep saying the same person, but Saint-Maximin finds another run. He finds Isak in the box, who he's facing with his back to goal, which you never like.
Not as a
snapshot, and he's just over the bar. We're having chances. Is it a case that we just need to get our shooting boots on, and on another day that would have maybe been a 2-2 draw or even a 3-2 victory?
Well, like you say, it's a case of we've created the chances even with 10 men, and I think that's been our downfall. The last few weeks is just we've looked a little bit leggy. You could completely understand why you would look leggy today, given that you've played 2/3 of the match with 10 men against a team that moved the ball about very, very well. Still creating a lot of chances. I thought, to be honest, Saint-Maximin was absolutely phenomenal today. I thought it was a game that suited him completely, but he wasn't just staying to the left. He was picking it up from everywhere. He was driving more forward. Like you say, the first half he's had that shot that's been tipped over the bar. I thought absolutely hats off to him. He's definitely improved his game from the last 2. Because I know a lot of people are saying these are his 3 games to almost as an audition. Thought he was absolutely terrific today. Like you say, another day just takes one of those chances to go in. The crowd's then up, and like you say, I don't think Liverpool looked too comfortable defending. And I think even with 10 men, we're still pressing them very, very well, and sort of forcing mistakes and misplaced passes. One of which is, I think it was Gordon wins the ball when he came on. Wins the ball back, drives her forward. And to be honest, Callum Wilson's got to finish that for me. It's he tries to pass it with his left. I think if he possibly opens his body up and bends it with his right, that's 2-1. It's an interesting last 10 minutes. But like you say, it's not the way the cards felt today. But for me, that was probably the best chance of the second half. Arguably of the game. It was clear cut. For me, he's got to be finishing that.
Yeah, I think the only other chance I can remember in that second half that was maybe a good chance was for Liverpool. With I think it was Núñez had a shot which Dubravka pulled off a great save to his left, which kind of was going across goal. He goes out for a corner. That was really, apart from, like I said, the last couple of minutes where Jota and Firmino started to get past our defence a little bit. They were really the only 2 chances that Liverpool had after their goals. Like, there wasn't much else. We did really well to subdue them. Obviously, I'm not saying that we were playing, against them. We had men behind the ball. We parked that bus, but you've got to. I mean, you would pretty much do it anyway against Liverpool, but you're down to 10 men. You're not going to be playing attacking football. And, with the substitute from when Nick Pope coming off, with Elliot Anderson going off, and you're dropping almost. It felt like when that happened, Saint and Isak kind of played as a front two, and then it was a midfield 4 or 5, and then the back 3 as it came through there. Miggy seemed to just drift into the middle a bit as well, I thought, before he came off. And then the substitutes came, and there was 3 substitutes, which, you had Wilson for Isak. I was surprised to see Wilson coming on, if I'm being honest. I thought he would have just been rested, but minutes in the legs.
Yeah, especially with you trailing the game with 10 men. It's not as if it was like you could go on and get a winner or an equaliser. We still had a lot of work to do. But like you say, it could be minutes in the legs. Trippier, the only thing I can think of is obviously that blow to the head when he tackled Núñez. I don't know if that's been something, or he's thought he's a key player. I don't want him with risking, and the same with Joe Linton, because obviously Joe Linton was saying he was fine. It's especially when it's like hamstrings. It's not like a collision injury. It's you feel it and you don't want to risk it. And he is instrumental. So yes, would be getting Bruno back, but then to lose Joe Linton, that would be a massive blow. So, and I get it. He was upset that he's come off, but I agree with what you were saying in the group chat. It's Eddie Howe saying, I'm the boss, I'm in charge, I'm doing it for your benefit, sort of thing.
Yeah, there was a bit of that, and then when Joe Linton actually came off, Eddie Howe you could see him having a word with him, just going, "Look, next week, I'm saving you for next week," and you could see Joe Linton, and I think even at the end of the game, Eddie Howe was having a chat with him as well, saying, "Look, I'm doing this for next week." The other substitute was Gordon coming on for Almiron.
Yes.
Because Murphy came on for Trippier.
Yeah, he did.
And then Matt Ritchie came on for Joe Linton. Once Gordon came on, like I say, it kind of, I think, gave Saint-Maximin a bit more of a free role. You saw him dropping a lot deeper. You saw him being in the middle. You saw him on the right, on the left. That seems to suit Saint-Maximin quite a lot.
Yeah.
Just not being, restricted to that side. I think he said himself in interviews in the past that he's a number 10 and he prefers playing in the middle. Given the personnel we've got with Gordon, with, Saint-Maximin, Wilson and Isak, there's an opportunity to put Maxi in that middle kind of role because Isak can play on the wing. You've got Gordon on the wing. It can only be good for us. Obviously, Gordon can't play next week because he's also cup tied. I mean, what we're doing, buying players who've already played in the Carabao Cup, I mean, that's just ridiculous. But like I said, the last thing I wanted to touch on was that big miss from Callum Wilson. You've talked about it already. It was a 3-on-2. Like there was Saint-Maximin on the right, I think, and Wilson on the left, and Gordon. He hasn't done anything wrong. I think the pass is perfect to Wilson. Wilson's there, and I don't think Wilson can take a touch.
No, definitely not.
I don't think he needs to hit it as early as he does, or how he does, because he seems to just try and side-foot it past Alisson. And he saves it with his legs. One last question from me. Were you surprised that Jamie Carragher gave Alan Saint-Maximin man of the match? Not because of Max's performance, because I agree with you. I thought he was our best player by a country mile. But Liverpool are winning 2-0. The players who've scored, the players who've assisted, they're on the pitch. Well, the goal scorers win, but they're on the pitch. And you very rarely see that. You very rarely see the losing side
get man of the match, unless it's maybe
or player of the game, as it's now referred to.
I can see why it is a surprise, but at the same time, you've just listed there, obviously, the players that scored, players that assisted. Other than that, I don't think they did anything exceptional. It wasn't like they were controlling the game, whereas for Maxi, for us, he was the player that was dictating everything. So unusual, but I don't think it was undeserved at all. Like I say, it's just
not at all.
a shame that it wasn't in a winning performance or even a draw. I would have took a draw. I know, obviously, we've drew what I think it was before today. It was 5 of our 6, and you kind of wanted to build momentum going into a cup final. Probably would have snapped your hands off for a draw, but I just felt like this has probably been coming for a couple of weeks now, possibly since the turn of the year. We've just seemed like we've not ran out of ideas, but just ran out of steam, or we're not firing on all cylinders. Against a team like Liverpool, you need to be to get anything, and obviously the going down to 10 men didn't help. Although saying that, with 10 men, we drew the game 0-0. So I just think, given that, if it was, say, take the cup final out of it, say if it was Man City was the next game in the league, I probably wouldn't have been as disheartened. But now going into a cup final, you've only won 1 in 7. You're up against still a very, very good team in Man U. You've lost your keeper, who's been exceptional. It's just, it's like we can never have nice things. Not saying that like it's written off, the cup final is written off, but like just those things would have made it a lot more comfortable. Like you would have went in with a lot more confidence. But now, like say, 1 win in 7, lost the keeper that's kept 13 clean sheets. So yeah, I don't want to end up in doom and gloom. So say something positive, please.
Well, I mean, you say 1 win in 7, and that's not a great run, but those runs are always made to be broken, right? So why not break that duck against Man United for the Carabao Cup? I mean, why the hell
also not? I would rather say because that's what was second loss of the season, my third in all competitions. I would rather that loss come in the league, and then rather than the League Cup final, because you know what's at stake. But
absolutely,
it's something to
bounce back from. It's something to bounce back from, and we can absolutely do that. I think obviously there's been a few jokes going around about Karius and finals as well, because he didn't like that Champions League final that he played for Liverpool, incidentally, where I think they got beat 3-1 from Barcelona, if my memory serves me correctly.
Real Madrid, was it not? Because Bale
was it Real Madrid? It was, maybe it was Real Madrid. But hey, I don't think that has any bearing on what his performance will be like next week. And he may not play. He may start with Gillespie. I cannot see that happening personally. But we've got 4 goalkeepers. Did Caldolo go on loan?
He went, Caldolo. Wait, this was another thing I was thinking. Do we just recall him? Like, it depends how much faith he's got in Karius. But like I say, it's try not to be negative. Go into next week positive, and hopefully it'll be something to bounce back from. Yes, it's only 1 win in 7. It's also 1 defeat in 7. So, 1 defeat in what? Actually, is it 13, 14,
2 defeats
17?
All season. So let's say that, yeah.
Let's go into the cup final with a bit of positivity, because on the whole, I thought after the sending off, everyone played very, very well. They managed the game well. We had clear-cut chances as well. It wasn't just half chances.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, going in that cup final, yes, you've lost 1 player. It's just 1 player. There's 10 other players that can contribute to it. So
absolutely,
this is a lot more positive
Bruno
than I
back,
thought
so
it was.
Why not?
Exactly. This is a lot more positive than I thought it was going to be coming into this. So I think it's probably time to end it there before it's the realization starts that we're going to have Mark Gillespie in goal for the cup final. We
could get Keith Gillespie back and see if he wants to play in goal. I mean, he might do a job as well. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Right, we'll end it there. Thanks, Iain, for your time this evening. Like we've said, it's only 2 defeats this season, so let's not be too downhearted about this. We're still 4th in the league, and we are going into a cup final next week. There will be a match preview for that cup final coming up this week, as well as the Always Smiling Faces podcast. And there'll be other content throughout the week as well. If you like this video, be the awesome boy, girl, whoever who goes down from this video and hits that little thumbs up button. And if you didn't like it, hit the thumbs down button. It helps us as well. If you want to go that one extra step further, you can also hit the subscribe button so that all of our videos show up in your YouTube feed. And if you want to be notified when those videos go live, you can hit the little bell icon and you'll get a little pop-up on your phone or your iPad or your telly or whatever it is you watch YouTube on these days. Can you watch it on an Apple Watch? Maybe you can watch it on your watch. And if you want to go even further, we do have a membership program. It's $2.99 a month. That gets you early access to videos as well as access to the Telegram group. Yep, it's all going to be Wembley in that group, I think, for the next week. So it's a little
good time to join it.
It's a good time to join. It's a good time to be in there. So yeah, $2.99 a month gets you access to that as well. But like I've said before, we go into this Carabao Cup FA Cup final. We'll see what comes of this week. We'll see if there's any news on goalkeepers. Maybe we're going to peel that red card like Iain tried to put in the group chat. Don't see it happening, but we'll see what happens.
Just clutching at straws, guys.
Trying to do anything we can. But it's time to pack your bags. It's time to tell your mum that you're not going to be home because it's time to go to Wembley. So we'll see you in the reactions and the previews and the podcasts for that. Thanks, everybody. See you later. Bye.